Today I'll be making one of my daughter's favorite Southeast Asian snacks, steamed layered cake. There are many versions of steamed layered cakes. Today I'll use purple sweet potatoes to make purple colored layers, so we'll have both purple and white layers. Start by steaming about 200 grams of peeled and cut purple sweet potatoes. Once the steamer is in full boil, pop in the bowl of sweet potatoes. Keep the heat on high and steam until the sweet potatoes are cooked and mash easily with a fork. The lid is covered with a piece of towel to prevent condensation from the steam from going back into the cake when we steam it later. Once cooked, remove sweet potatoes from the pot and mash thoroughly with a fork. Then add 200 milliliters of coconut milk. Add 70 milliliters of water for now. We will add more water later if the mixture is too thick. Mix well. Put the mixture over a strainer into another bowl. I switched to a strainer with slightly larger holes in the mesh to make this job easier. Now you have a smoother mixture of the sweet potatoes and coconut milk. Add dry ingredients into the mixture. 100 grams of tapioca starch, 60 grams of rice flour, and 100 grams of granulated sugar. I only use 70 grams of sugar here, so I cut the sugar down by 30% and find that that level of sweetness is just right for our taste. Mix well. With the rice flour, it's best to use one with a finer texture like the ones usually sold at Asian stores. This will produce a better and smoother texture in the final product. Mix until there are no more lumps. This mixture is a little too thick, so we'll add a little bit more water. The moisture level in sweet potatoes varies, so it's hard to say for sure how much water we'll need, and the amount of water will need to depend on the types of sweet potatoes that you use. I'll keep adding water bit by bit until I get to the consistency that I need for the mixture. This is the consistency that you need. It's slightly runny but still has somewhat of a creamy and slightly starchy texture. The mixture to make purple layers is done. Set it aside. Next, we'll make the mixture for the white colored layers, but we want to get the steamer going while we do that. I use a glass container like this to steam the cake. You can use any heat-safe cake pans too. Brush a few drops of oil to lightly grease the container. Don't need to use more than a few drops of oil, as less is always better when it comes to oil. Then pop the container into the steamer and bring it to a full boil on high heat. The dry ingredients to make the mixture for the white colored layers are 80 grams of rice flour, 90 grams of tapioca starch, and 100 grams of granulated sugar. But again, I only use 70 grams of sugar here, which I think is enough. Mix together the dry ingredients. Then add with wet ingredients, which are 200 milliliters of coconut milk and 250 milliliters of water. Mix well until there are no more lumps in the mixture. Now that the steamer is ready and in full boil, we're ready to start steaming. The first layer you pour will be the top layer of the cake, so I'll start with the purple colored layer. Spoon the mixture into the glass container or cake pan. This will be the first layer of our layered cake. Make sure to stir the mixture before spooning because the starch will settle at the bottom. Make sure the entire cake pan or container is covered, up to about 3 millimeters in thickness. Don't add too much because if the layer is too thick, it may not cook properly. Cover lid and steam for 5 to 7 minutes for each layer, depending on the thickness of the layer. Keep the steamer on high heat throughout the whole steaming process. After 5 to 7 minutes, the first layer looks somewhat solid, which means that it's ready for us to add the second layer on. Stir the white mixture to make sure no starch is sitting at the bottom of the bowl. Add about the same amount of white colored mixture as the purple colored mixture earlier, so we'll have even looking layers for the cake. Cover the lid and steam again for 5 to 7 minutes. Don't try to rush this individual layer steaming time. If you add the next layer before the previous one is cooked enough, you'll get messy layers later on. Repeat this process, alternating between the purple and the white colored mixture until all mixture is done. Check to make sure that there is enough water in the steamer to keep going. If the water runs low, add more water into the pot or steamer, making sure not to let water drip into the cake. After you add the last layer on, cover the lid and steam for another 30 minutes to make sure the entire cake is well set and cooked through. Again, check to make sure there will be enough water to last for this last and longer steaming. The cake is done steaming. Carefully remove the pan from the steamer and leave it to cool completely. This usually takes at least several hours. Don't attempt to remove or cut the cake before it's completely and thoroughly cool, or the cake will not hold its shape. Once it's completely cooled, use a thin spatula to go along the edges of the cake and very gently and carefully tease it. Then slowly go down through the layers to tease the cake out of the pan or container, being careful not to break the layers. Don't worry if you screw up a bit at first. This usually gets easier with practice. Then carefully flip the cake pan or container onto a surface that's been lined with saran wrap to prevent sticking. To cut this cake, wrap a knife with saran wrap so the cake doesn't stick to the knife. I also line a serving plate here with saran wrap. Then carefully cut the cake. This cake is most commonly cut into little squarish slices like this. To store the cake slices, line a container with saran wrap, then arrange the slices on top. Cover with saran wrap again and arrange another layer of slices until all done. Because this cake is steamed, it contains a higher moisture level and may go bad relatively quickly in warm and humid environments. If it's warm and humid where you are, consume within a few hours and store leftovers in the fridge. When you're ready to serve, just steam it for a minute or two to soften.